All right. Hello and welcome back to Walking with Jesus. I am Pastor Jean, and I'm sitting here next to
Pastor Fred.
very nice. I will make sure that everybody knows that we are trying to walk with Jesus despite the fact that we're sitting down.
This is a very, very good distinction you're making. Yes.
Okay. So for me, this whole walking with Jesus has an idea behind it attached to something that King David,
Yeah, it's a good start.
right? King David, he spent a lot of time in nature. And he kept saying everything that's alive is pointing towards this creator. When you open your hand, God is there to put stuff in your hand. I think he says something like that in Psalm 145.
Right.
Now, for you, Fred, what do you think is the thing that stops our walk with Jesus?
I'm glad you asked. Just kind of thinking of what you said about David and everything, when we break the law of God or the law of love, as he would probably call it, it always brings us sadness and then eventually death. So,
Interesting.
yeah.
I don't know. For me, as I think about it, people try to look at God and say, "Well, I want to see you. I want to know what God is." Last night, I spent some time with some interested people that, and they were all from different walks of life. Some were attached to my denomination. Some were Christian adjacent. Others were just like, I'm here. It was like kind of what you said was kind of over my head. And the reality is most people are like, well, I can't be sure that God is there, right? Without using, I don't know, and I don't know if I've used this already, even in our previous episode, the concept of, saying that, that famous little poem that there was a couple of footsteps in the sand, but then I saw, a couple of sets of footprints in the sand. And then all of a sudden I only saw one. So that works for some people, and that doesn't work for other people.
Right.
Why do you think that is? Why are we constantly seeking to do that? Just Fred, not Pastor Fred, not Pastor Jean. Like, think back when you were a kid. What did that look like? What did you see when you saw a person that walked with Jesus?
Yeah. I mean, I think of a guy, because of what you're taught is that in a way that they're kind of sterile and calm and got it put together is what the ideal was put before me. I remember a family growing up, rough times. This family took me in. The guy was very even keel, very calm, very loving. And it was a surprise at one point to find when he was not, I guess. And that's when people start to think that you're not. And I don't know, like, I guess just giving it to you as Fred, little boy Fred, and how I was taught to see what the quintessential walking with Jesus person looked like.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And I think the Bible says something to that effect, right? Like,
yeah. Actually, in John 4:2, it says he is slow to get angry, full of love.
Wow. I think that's another thing that we miss, right? Because we'll be looking for this concept of walking with Jesus, but the reality is most of the time we're trying to project what that would look like.
Yes, absolutely.
And most of the time, I don't know, it just seems like it's something that we would want it to look like. Have you ever heard that phrase of, like, if I was God, I would do A, B, C, right?
Yeah.
But if we really were God, I mean, I think it would be a very dark place to live in. Wouldn't you say? Like, would we be slow to anger?
Yeah, probably not.
Right.
But, there's a distinction that I enjoy here is that, I was taught that you don't get angry, so to say slow to anger, boy, that says something, right? Some kind of a character kind of a attribute, slow to anger. And I'm still working on that. That's something I'm working on. So
interesting. Now, so when I think about that, I don't know if you think about this, is that one of the reasons why God had to become one of us and live with us?
That's a good one. Yeah, I think we needed to see it. We needed to see it.
Interesting.
Face to face. Yeah.
So for me, when Jesus came to this planet and he started to live among us, he said things that none of us would say. And he said them in such a way that people had one of two reactions. Either they were highly, highly confused or very, very intrigued.
Yeah.
right? And the confusion would lead to like, well, maybe that's just a crazy person. Or the other one would be, well, I have questions. And if I hear you correctly, what you're saying about yourself, I might be a little angry
Yeah. That's
about what you're saying. Because Jesus came to this planet not in a place that didn't know anything about God, came to a place that professed to know who God was.
I didn't
Right?
recognize.
Like a very specific version of God. So everything he did in his life or in the life of others was filled with love.
Yeah.
But what's the problem with love?
Mm.
Like we tell it to kids all the time, right? Like, what's the problem with love? With kids, for example, they'll say, I love Doritos.
Yeah.
Right? And they'll say, Mommy, I love you. Those two, the same thing.
Yeah. Absolutely not. Yeah.
But we use the word love.
It's true.
So for me, when I think about love, mercy, compassion, all of those things were just kind of encapsulated and packaged into this one person. And we're talking about a 30-something-year-old man who possibly recruited teenagers, maybe some early 20-somethings, some recently married individuals. Sometimes we look in the past and we think, well, Jesus was surrounded by these old guys, these seasoned fishermen. No, not really. These were pretty young guys. And so he came to pitch, and this is something else that we talked about with the kids this week. He came to pitch a upside down kingdom.
That's right.
Right. And so he's asking people to walk with him. So thinking about it from the disciples' perspective, or from the fact that God asks people, come, follow me, walk with me, look at where I'm going. I don't know. What's your earliest memory of somebody asking you to walk with them?
I'm thinking of going through the woods. I've done that before, gone through the woods and just trusting them because I was able to trust them in the past with something.
That sounds ominous. Random person asked you to go walking in the woods. It's interesting.
Well,
is a relative?
It was a relative.
Okay.
I'm glad we got that squared away. No, I don't follow strangers in the woods.
Okay.
No.
I'm just imagining little Fred walking in the woods with strangers. Sorry, different times.
Right.
Different times. I don't know. I just remember, like, if it wasn't my parents following somebody while walking seemed like, oh, they're probably taking me to a cool place. I was more focused on the destination than the actual walk.
That's good. Yeah.
Right. Like I was like, oh, where are they taking me? So I'm like, what's over the next hill? What are we going to see next?
Yeah.
And now when I think back to that instance, and I don't know if that was like that for you, I think back and I'm like, man, I valued the actual walk, not the destination. Yes, the destination had something, and eventually we got there and it was like some small gorge overlooking a creek. Awesome. Right. But then the walk back and the conversations that would happen and the jokes that were made and all these other things. So the experience itself of walking was incredibly important to me.
Yeah.
And just imagine that, just 3.5 years of walking from place to place.
Yep.
Every aspect. At the end of John, the Gospel of John, John says, look, if we could write all of the things that Jesus said and did, there would not be enough books in the planet, right, to fill or to be able to encompass everything that Jesus said and did. Why do you think he said it that way? Is it from the angle that we're talking about, or do you feel like there's a different angle for Fred?
I was thinking, I think when you asked me the story, I was thinking from like a danger, like I'm lost and afraid. And the perspective you're talking about, like when you went, it was the journey, the conversations, and the destination wasn't everything to be, seen, but it's the experience. And then to hear you say where, okay, Jesus says all these things can't even be contained in the book. I'm thinking that journeying was a frequently done thing. This was something that there's a lot of journey instead of destination going on here with Jesus.
Has anyone ever taken you on a walk because they needed to tell you something important?
Like, hey, come on over here, man. I need to tell you something.
What works better? Like it coming up organically, or be like, hey, listen, I have something extremely important, slight, and then you just let the ominous nature of what's about to happen seep in. What works better in your mind? Have you done that? Have you done that with people?
I have, and usually at a place of employment, usually it's like, hey, we need to sit down and talk or something, and I used to be at a call center, and that was, you could tell, I think, to answer your question, something more organic. I feel like if we're walking and we're not like, hey, we need to sit down and talk about this, I think it comes more naturally along the way instead of pulling them aside and saying,
Isn't it ironic that, well, the first human thing that God is, what that is recorded that God does in the Bible is he's walking in the cool of the garden, looking for humanity who is actively in trouble,
that is very true.
right?
Yeah.
So I think by taking on our nature and walking with us, because like that's really ironic. Like when the ministry of Jesus actually started developing, we see Jesus doing that. He would walk with people, walk from place to place, walk from town to town, and then he would stop from his walk either to what? Have fun, have a party, eat,
Yep.
share, break bread, teach, or off walking again by himself to go pray.
That's a good distinction.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
So I think by taking our nature, Jesus raised humanity to another level. And I've spoken about that before. So I can't think of a better way of explaining to people this whole concept of this small little series that we're trying to promote here or trying to do here, right? Of saying, hey, listen, I want to walk with you. And so for me, maybe that's a challenge to everybody out there, like who can we go walking with? I mean, never mind just the health benefits.
Sure.
There's a bunch of that.
Yeah.
I walk some more. I mean, like I've been tempted to also, get one of those tiny little stupid treadmills on my stand-up desk. Oh, I'm cranking out work and I'm walking. Technically, we should do that, but that's weird, right?
Yeah.
It's a little weird. It's probably good for me, but wouldn't it be better to work out my thoughts and maybe like insert some sort of culture with the people we like, with the people we have here at church, in our church family, and anywhere else? How would it look like? We're busy. We're all in our little islands, in our little homes, in our, school. We have our little circles and stuff like that. What would it look like to ask people to go walking with us?
Honestly, I think that it would get us out of, because being in those little circles, like you said, on our little islands, I think that sometimes we just, in those little circles, we create our own destinations or ideas of these other people. Whereas if you come now to break away from your world island and walk with somebody, now we're getting into an experience. And now some of those maybe notions, preconceived assumptions, stereotypes would start to melt away. I think that, that's...
But can we literally go up to people and be like, hey, come walking with me?
I think you almost just have to like walk up beside them, but they might be shocked, if you just start walking. Like if they're walking, you just kind of meet their pace, kind of walk alongside of them.
Would that work? I mean, I'm even trying to think geographically here at our church. Like, hey, today during church, we're just going on a hike.
That's a good one,
right? Like, and we're gonna have conversations throughout the hike, And I just think about that, like let's go on a hike, and then I think of all the things that come up, that I don't know if they came up back then. I'm sure people complain, like people find ways to, well, the AC's not working in my car, or this, it's like, oh my goodness, there was so much traffic,
right?
Or we did go walking with some of the kids here in the school just to the park, which is like half a mile away, and it's like, it's so hot, it's so long, I'm so tired, goodness. And I'm not necessarily trying to put down, but to me, it was an amazing experience. I'm walking and I'm watching. Yes, I'm listening to them talk. I'm listening, and I'm wondering, could there be an opportunity to do that? And there's a lot of people that are made very, very uncomfortable by doing what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
Just locking irises, right? And talking about stuff.
Right. Yeah.
I've seen it work way better when, people are just kind of looking to the horizon.
Yeah.
They're not like, they're going side by side, shoulder to shoulder, maybe not meeting their gaze, but being in that moment and realizing, oh, a conversation is happening here.
Yeah.
Something important is being said. Have you thought about this? Have you felt this before? Have you experienced this before? Have you thought, what role can you imagine Jesus doing A, B, C? So I'm not asking you to be a prophet or a prognosticator, but how do you think that would go?
Yeah, no, I'd love to give it a shot. I'd like to be prophetic. I want to wax prophetic here. I'm thinking it would change communities. I think it would change our church. I think it would change the way we interact with others. I think that having a destination, say, I feel like when you said you went to the park, it's like the destination was the park and they thought that's what they were going for. But along the way, besides the hot talk and I'm sweating, the destination, I think those would start some conversations that would change our community. I think it would. How fast? I would say dramatically quick. I have another one actually.
Really?
Yeah, I have a story
Okay.
that I'll share with you, and this could be cut out if we have to. But, I had the opportunity to go to a quinceañera.
Quinceañera. I got to go as well.
Right. And so the thing is that there are people that are of different demographic and cultural backgrounds that don't share the same as, say, a Hispanic quinceañera would espouse. And we went there and everyone was sitting like cookie cutters around tables. No one was really talking. There was a little nervous laugh talking.
Super awkward at first.
Super awkward at first until the moment when you see the little ballroom dance of the young lady. And then she's just inviting people one at a time to come up there and just slow dance with her. And as the night progressed, there were people that I would have never imagined. I would venture to say that was a walk. They call it a dance, but it was a walk. And it was a walk that probably changed the way that I will interact with some of the members of this church for the rest of my time here, or the rest.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Why?
That is because it allowed us, because we have a certain construct and a way that we go about one another, a way that we talk, dress, live, and interact that are not outside of, we only see each other in certain places. Whereas if we saw each other outside at a grocery store or somewhere else, this was in a different environment. It was in a different cultural setting, and it allowed us to kind of experience one another in a way we never had before.
Very good.
And I don't know. I felt like it. I feel now more at home with these people. I feel more connected even with them.
So you experienced a bit of organized walking.
Organized walking. That's a really good way of putting that. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And I've gotten to hang out with a lot of people who, once again, I'm going to leave out the demographics as well.
Sure.
But I've interacted with a lot of people who really like going on hikes.
Yeah.
Right. And, and I've had that conversation with people, even from the bottom of my heart. It was like, where are we going? Like I said, even as a little boy, I would look at that and be like, well, where's this going? Right. Where's this going? And I think that's one of the things that I think it will help us wrap up what we're talking about here. Jesus comes to walk with us because is the destination clear for Jesus? What would you say?
I would say for him, yes.
Okay. There's a verse, I think it's 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 7. It says, for we walk by faith and not by sight. And then Galatians chapter 5 says, but when we walk by the Spirit so that we don't gratify the things that our bodies want. And sometimes, I think that's what's being pitched to us over and over and over again. You got to feel good. You got to feel comfortable. You got to be okay with things. You got to self-realize, self-actualize, and I continue to see many, many different places in the Bible where we are told to walk in love with each other, knowing that the destination is already set. And I think everybody's looking for a set path that is leading us to heaven, but that path has already walked this planet. So let me repeat it again. That path has already walked this planet. And he said, listen, I need you to walk out into the rest of the world.
Yeah.
And bring people to the true path. So for me, I'm just reminded of what it says in Ephesians chapter 5. At one point, you were all in some sort of dark path.
Yep.
But now I need you to walk in the light of God. And I need you to walk as children of light. So my appeal to anybody that might be listening to this is, who can you invite to go walking with you?
That's good.
I don't know what that looks like. I don't know if you're going to actually be doing walking. I hope you are. It's very good for you. Everybody should get some walks. But I really, really hope that you are able to share a bright walk with people.
Yeah.
right? There's so many people out there that are just walking aimlessly in darkness.
That's right.
And what we're pitching to people is not hard. It's not complicated. It's very simple. There is someone who from the beginning wanted to walk with you and with me.
Yeah.
Anything that we can leave them with, Pastor Fred?
Yeah, just simply an invitation, right? To apply this to our lives, a direct invitation to you today to walk with someone, because now our walk is not without purpose. We have a walk that has a stride and a destination that was that one who has gone before us, and that is Jesus Christ. And so now that he has walked the walk and talked the talk, we too now can follow and we can walk as well. And it's funny because we don't have to do what he did. There is a death in a way, but it's the walk that we're inviting you to do today is just a simple invitation that, hey, let's go on a walk. Walk with me.
Hey, Fred.
Yeah.
Thanks for walking with me.
Thank you. Thank you.
Our walks are not, is it always fun, our walks?
I think so. Yeah, I think.
Wow.
I think so.
I was very confused.
Well, and if you're talking about like in the sense of like when we're hanging out, I feel like it's a good time. I think as far as like getting to know each other and things like that, that's taking work as any humans working together as pastors.
There's some rough patches.
There's some rough patches, but
we're admitting that to you.
Yeah, but the walk, we keep walking. And honestly, I feel like it's drawn us closer together. So yeah, there is benefits to walking together.
Absolutely.
There are benefits. So we invite you today, walk with somebody. Walk with somebody today.
Amen. As always, God bless you. Remember, the Lord of Light is trying to walk with you and me.
Amen.
God bless you, and hopefully you can catch us next time.